Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Myles Garrett putting faith in Browns GM to land a QB that we all continue to have faith in. Myles Garrett made himself the story this offseason after publicly requesting a trade from the Browns. Soon after, he signed a record-breaking contract as well as a no-trade clause. Given that his stated motivation for requesting a trade was a desire to win, many questioned his motivations. Since then, he has only spoken once, during a press conference on his new extension. The primary emphasis for the Browns' future is the quarterback position, and Myles Garrett only has so much control there. He wanted to know their plans for building a winning team, but he didn't offer much publicly. Asked what their plans are for their top draft pick, he only said, "Next question." Otherwise, he deferred to GM Andrew Berry. Multiple times, he said he would be leaning on Berry and his expertise, which, of course, he has to, since he's a player. Just leaning on AB and his expertise and knowing that he has a plan on what this team and this offense will look like going forward, and he's going to put the best offense possible out there, Garrett said of the Browns' vision for the quarterback position. He's going to get a QB that we all continue to have faith in, and we're going to go out and do our thing on defense. Around the time of the press conference, the Browns hosted Russell Wilson, and Garrett acknowledged having some involvement in that. Since then, however, they have made no drastic moves, acquiring Kenny Pickett via trade along the way. Of course, they still hold the second pick in the draft. The long and short of it is Garrett won't say what kind of reassurances the Browns offered him. That's not a surprise, of course, and there is no reason that he would, or should. Giving away a team's strategy, especially in the draft, is actually pretty terrible business. But it does make it more difficult to accept Garrett's premise that he wasn't motivated by money. How are we to believe that he truly believes the Browns are in striking distance of relevance? I do understand what he's building, and we've had multiple conversations about that, and I just know that I'm going to do my part to get everyone in line and on board with that goal and that message, Garrett said of the Browns' vision for building a competitive team. As good as Myles Garrett may be, the Browns have lost plenty of games with him. That is the primary criticism many had for the deal Cleveland gave him, and it's understandable, given their record. But if they could hit on a quarterback after swinging big and missing bigger on Deshaun Watson, it's not unreasonable to believe they could be a competitive team in a relatively short window. The only question is whether that is even a possibility for this offseason. Steelers kicking tires on Louisville QB. The Pittsburgh Steelers are once again in the midst of complete turnover at the quarterback position. For the second season in a row, the Steelers' quarterback room will likely look entirely different than the year prior, highlighting dysfunction in the team's offense. Now, with Aaron Rodgers holding all the proverbial cards and waiting time to make a decision on whether or not he would like to join the Steelers, the front office will have to look at a relatively weak draft class. This is due to the free agency market being relatively weak to start and now almost completely dried up save for Rodgers and former Steeler in Russell Wilson. One player who has shot up draft boards recently is Tyler Shaw, whose day 3 grade earlier in the process has jumped up to the first round by some mock draft experts. The Oregon, Texas Tech and Louisville product shown at the Combine and has shown more consistency than most of the available quarterbacks, whether it be prospects or free agents. In his final season, with Louisville, Shaw threw for 3,195 yards as well as 23 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. ESPN NFL analyst Louis Riddick believes that the Steelers would be a good fit for Shaw, especially due to how quarterback-needy they are. On a recent episode of Get Up, Riddick spoke on what they had done so far in regards to checking him out. Tyler Shaw has to be someone that's on their radar, Riddick said. He's someone who was on their initial top 30 visit list and someone who I know that they're kicking the tires on as they should. Shaw might be a stretch in the first round, but the team desperately needs to address their quarterback group. The gamble for the ACC product could pay off. the Pittsburgh Steelers approached the 2025 offseason with high aspirations and an aggressive strategy. They made significant moves in free agency to reshape their roster into a legitimate Super Bowl contender. However, despite their efforts, one glaring question remains: who is their long-term answer at quarterback? The Steelers have built a strong roster on both sides of the ball. That said, without a top-tier signal caller to lead the way, their free agency moves could ultimately fall short of expectations. With the NFL draft on the horizon, Pittsburgh must make a decisive move, either by acquiring a young quarterback with untapped potential or by trading up to land a franchise-altering talent. The Steelers' front office was intent on locking in either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields before free agency. And yet, both deals fell through. Sure, it's possible Omar Khan never seriously pursued Wilson. Also, Fields made it clear he wanted to go elsewhere. Sam Darnold seemed like a logical fit for Pittsburgh, but the Steelers' decision-makers disagreed. Acquiring DK Metcalf in a bold trade was a strong statement. Additionally, adding veteran cornerback Darius Slay could prove beneficial if he still has enough in the tank. However, the next priority on the Steelers' agenda must be addressing the quarterback position and shoring up the offensive line. Their free agency spending spree also included key reinforcements on both fronts, signaling their intent to compete in a stacked AFC. Yet, the most pressing issue remains unresolved: who will be leading this team under center? Here we'll try to look at the perfect trade that the Pittsburgh Steelers must complete after the 2025 NFL free agency frenzy. NFL rumors: Packers nostalgia gives Steelers an edge for Aaron Rodgers. We're now officially deep into the month of March, and the Aaron Rodgers free agency saga remains ongoing, which, given all we know about the peculiar 41-year-old quarterback, shouldn't come as a surprise. Rodgers has at least flirted with the idea of joining the New York Giants, Minnesota Vikings, and Las Vegas Raiders, but now it seems as if the Pittsburgh Steelers are the most likely landing spot for the former New York Jets quarterback. Before Rodgers' miserable 2-year tenure with the Jets, he spent 15 years as the starting quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, and even though his time with Green Bay ended on shaky terms, it now seems as though Rodgers is looking back on those years with the Packers more fondly, and even using those memories as a guide for where he'll spend the 2025 season and beyond. I've heard Rodgers is looking for a culture such as the one in Green Bay, writes Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer. I get it if that sounds a little strange after the drama of the 4-time MVP's final years as a Packer. But over the past few months, Rodgers has been open with people around him on his renewed appreciation for what he had for 18 seasons in Wisconsin. Call it a grass is greener dynamic if you want, but it definitely has felt, to some of those around him, like spending a couple years as a New York Jet made Rodgers view the situation he had more favorably. This, according to Breer, gives the Steelers a leg up on the New York Giants and any other team that could possibly force their way into the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. That's also one area where the Steelers have an edge. Pittsburgh has a long-established culture, a family business feel, and stability, just like Green Bay. It also helps, I'd think, that the roster is stocked with decorated veterans such as T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and now DK Metcalf, who are deep into their careers and presumably would carry a similar win-now urgency to Rodgers. What everyone in Pittsburgh needs to wonder about here is whether Rodgers is actually the right quarterback for a team with a win-now mindset. The Jets were in win-now mode in each of Rodgers' 2 seasons in New York. In the first season, he tore his Achilles 5 plays into the season, which some would say was a fluke, but we can't dismiss Rodgers' age as a potential factor there. In the second season, Rodgers and the Jets went 5-12 and came nowhere close to competing for a postseason berth. And you, fan? What do you think about Aaron Rodgers' situation? Write to us in the comments.